You won't believe what happened the day I stood my ground on my own property. It all started when the HOA president, yeah, the one who's supposed to keep things calm and fair, completely lost it after I blocked her from entering my private ranch. I mean, imagine this. A quiet afternoon turning into a full-blown showdown that I never saw coming. What should have been a simple boundary issue exploded into something way bigger, and it got so intense she actually called the cops. And not just once, but while she was in tears. Now, you might be wondering why I even blocked her in the first place. Well, this wasn't about petty neighborhood drama or some random argument. It was about standing up for my rights on my own land, something every homeowner should be able to do without fear or harassment. But as soon as she realized she couldn't just walk through like she usually did, everything spiraled. The way she reacted was beyond anything I expected from someone in her position, especially the way she broke down when the cops arrived. This isn't just about one angry HOA president or a private ranch. It's about what happens when authority crosses a line and people refuse to back down. It's about the clash between personal freedom and community rules, and who really gets to decide where that line is drawn. I'm going to take you through the whole tense encounter, from the moment I put up that block to how the whole neighborhood suddenly turned upside down. But here's the kicker. This story isn't over. What happened next? Well, let's just say the aftermath got even more complicated, and you won't want to miss what went down after the cops left. Stick around because I'm about to share everything that unfolded in this crazy showdown with the HOA president, and trust me, it's one you won't forget. So, before things blew up that day, let me give you a bit of background about the situation and why this ranch became the center of all this chaos. I've owned this property for years, and it's always been my peaceful retreat, a place where I could disconnect and enjoy my space without interruptions. But living in a community with an HOA means there are always rules and restrictions, and sometimes those rules start to feel a little too controlling. The HOA president, let's call her Karen, has a reputation for being very strict and unapproachable. She's always pushing the boundaries of her authority, which has caused tension with several neighbors, but I thought I could keep things civil. The problem started when Karen began showing up uninvited, claiming she had to inspect the property or check for violations. At first, I didn't think much of it, but after a few visits, it became clear she was using her position to intimidate me and push for changes I never agreed to. She didn't just knock politely, she acted like she owned the place. I made it clear she wasn't welcome without prior notice, but she kept coming back, ignoring my requests. That's when I decided to block her from accessing a specific part of the ranch, the path that borders the main road and where she would always enter. I thought that would put an end to the unwanted visits, but it only made things worse. The day I put up the barrier, Karen flipped out. She showed up with a group of people, yelling and accusing me of breaking HOA rules. Her voice was loud, aggressive, and honestly, it shocked me how quickly she lost control. When the cops arrived, instead of calming down, she started crying, calling them over as if I was some kind of criminal. The whole scene felt surreal, like something out of a movie. What's really crazy is that no one expected the HOA president to react like this, especially not with tears and calling the police on a neighbor for simply setting a boundary. But there's more to this story, and what you don't know is that the tension between us wasn't just about property lines or rules. Something deeper was brewing, and it's connected to the bigger power struggle inside the community. Stay with me, because I'm about to reveal what happened behind the scenes that made this clash inevitable. What made this whole situation even messier was that history between Karen and some of the other neighbors. It wasn't just me she clashed with. There was an undercurrent of tension running through the whole community. Some folks felt like Karen was more interested in flexing her power than actually helping the neighborhood. There were whispers about how she had been pushing through rules that only benefited a small group, making life harder for the rest of us. So when I took a stand, it wasn't just about my ranch, it became part of a bigger battle. On one side, you had Karen, determined to enforce the HOA's rules no matter what, convinced she was doing the right thing. On the other, There were neighbors like me who felt trapped by those rules and the way she used her position to control everyone. This power struggle had been simmering for months, and my decision to block her felt like a spark that set everything off. What's interesting is how differently people saw the same events. Karen claimed I was breaking community rules, ignoring the fact that I had tried to talk to her about my concerns for weeks. Meanwhile, some neighbors quietly supported me, but were too scared to speak up. Others sided with Karen, thinking she was just enforcing order and that I was being difficult. It became clear this wasn't just about property lines anymore. It was about trust, respect, and who really gets to call the shots. Then there was the cops showing up. That changed everything. Instead of just a neighborhood disagreement, it became an official incident. The police didn't seem sure what to do, caught between enforcing the law and not wanting to get involved in HOA drama. Karen's tears added another layer of confusion. Was she genuinely upset, or was this a tactic to get sympathy? I still don't know. Behind all this, there were conversations happening I wasn't part of. Rumors about upcoming HOA meetings, secret plans, and maybe even threats to take things further legally. It felt like the ground beneath my feet was shifting, and I was in the middle of a storm that was bigger than just me or Karen. The question now is, how far will this go? And what will it mean for my ranch and the whole community? As days went by after the cops left, the tension in the neighborhood didn't just fade. It grew thicker, like a storm about to break. Karen didn't back down at all. Instead, she started sending formal letters, threatening fines and legal action if I didn't remove the barrier from my ranch. Each letter felt more aggressive than the last, and it was clear she was gearing up for a full-on battle. Meanwhile, I was hearing from other neighbors who quietly confessed they were on my side, but feared Karen's power and the possible consequences of standing up to her. The community was divided more than ever, and everyone seemed to be waiting for the next move. What really kept me on edge was the upcoming HOA meeting that everyone was talking about. Rumors spread that Karen planned to use the meeting to push through new rules specifically targeting properties like mine. It felt like a trap, a way to corner me into submission or at least make it impossible to keep my barrier up without breaking some new law. I started preparing myself mentally for what I knew could be the most intense confrontation yet, but I didn't expect how personal it would get. Then, out of nowhere, I received a message from someone inside the HOA board, someone who didn't want to be named. They hinted there was more to Karen's anger than just rules and boundaries. Something about a dispute from years ago, a grudge that went deeper than any of us knew. Suddenly, this felt less like a simple property disagreement and more like a battle rooted in old wounds and hidden agendas. It made me wonder, was I just a pawn in a bigger game? Every time I stepped outside, I felt eyes on me. There were moments when strangers drove slowly past the ranch, and once I even saw someone taking pictures from across the street. It was unsettling, and I knew the pressure was building toward a breaking point. My friends warned me to be careful. This wasn't just about fences anymore. And then came the day of the HOA meeting, the moment everything could explode. I showed up, prepared to defend my rights, expecting a debate. But what happened in that room was far more intense and personal than anyone imagined. The energy was electric, voices rising, accusations flying, and Karen, well, she wasn't holding anything back. The question was no longer just about my ranch. It was about the future of the whole neighborhood. What happened next changed everything, but that part, you'll have to wait for the next video. Just when I thought the HOA meeting was the peak of the drama, something happened that completely caught me off guard. Right in the middle of Karen's heated speech, someone from the back of the room stood up and dropped a bombshell. It was one of the board members, someone I thought was neutral, who revealed a secret that nobody had expected. Apparently, Karen had been involved in some questionable dealings behind the scenes, things that could seriously affect her position as HOA president. This wasn't just about enforcing rules anymore. It suddenly felt like the whole power structure in the community was on the verge of collapse. The room went silent for a moment, then erupted into whispers and shocked looks. Karen's face changed instantly. The confident, angry woman I'd seen before vanished, replaced by someone struggling to keep control. No one knew exactly what those questionable dealings were, but just hearing that threw everything into chaos. Suddenly, the conflict wasn't just me versus Karen. It was about exposing a bigger truth that could shake the entire neighborhood to its core. What made it even more intense was the fact that the anonymous tip came from someone who was supposed to be on Karen's side. It raised so many questions. Was Karen hiding more than just personal grudges? Were the rules she enforced really about control, or something darker? I could feel the tension spike, and I wasn't the only one. Neighbors who had been quiet started speaking up, some defending Karen, others demanding answers. Meanwhile, the pressure on me intensified. Karen's supporters tried to pin everything on me, accusing me of stirring up trouble, breaking HOA codes, and even hinting at legal action. It felt like the entire community was a powder keg ready to blow. And through it all, I was left wondering who I could really trust. The line between friend and foe was getting blurred, and every step I took felt like I was walking deeper into a minefield. Just when I thought things couldn't get any worse, an unexpected visitor showed up at my ranch late one night, someone with information that could change everything. But what they told me, that's a story for the next video, because this isn't over by a long shot. That late-night visit changed everything. The person who showed up wasn't just some random neighbor. It was Karen's own assistant, someone who had quietly been recording conversations and gathering proof of her questionable actions. When they handed me a folder full of documents and recordings, I knew this was the moment things would finally come to a head. The evidence showed Karen had been abusing her position to pressure homeowners, manipulating votes, and even threatening people to get what she wanted. It wasn't just about me or my ranch anymore. This was about exposing the truth behind the chaos that had been tearing the community apart. The very next day, I brought the evidence to the HOA board and some trusted neighbors. The atmosphere was electric. No one could deny what was in those files. Karen tried to defend herself, but the weight of the proof was too much. For the first time, people saw the real reason behind her harsh behavior and the control she'd tried to impose. The board voted unanimously to remove her as president, and the community finally felt a sense of relief, like a heavy cloud had lifted. But just as it seemed the nightmare was over, there was one last surprise. In the final moments of the meeting, Karen stood up and dropped another bombshell. She revealed that she had been working with a larger HOA management company all along. The company had been pushing for stricter rules across multiple neighborhoods, using her as that inside person to make changes no one wanted. Suddenly, the problem wasn't just Karen. It was part of a bigger system trying to take away homeowners' rights across the board. That twist left everyone stunned. The battle for my ranch had turned into something much larger, a fight not just against one person, but against an entire system. It was clear that while we'd won this round, the real challenge was just beginning. And as I stood there, realizing the road ahead, I knew I had to be ready for whatever came next. This community, my property, and the rights of homeowners everywhere were now on the line, and I wasn't about to back down. After everything that happened, things slowly started to calm down in the neighborhood. With Karen removed from her position and the truth out in the open, the community began to come together in a way I hadn't seen before. People started talking openly about what they wanted, not just rules that controlled us, but a neighborhood where everyone felt respected and heard. It was clear that the power struggle wasn't just about one person. It was about making sure homeowners like me could protect our property and live peacefully without fear of unfair interference. The HOA board brought in new leadership, and we worked to rewrite some of the rules, focusing on fairness and transparency. My barrier on the ranch stayed up, symbolizing more than just a fence. It was a reminder that standing up for your rights matters. I also realized how important it is to speak up early before problems spiral out of control. If I hadn't taken that step, who knows how much worse things could have gotten.